Hello everyone and welcome. Again, I am Tammy Mangus, Superintendent of Schools.
I'm Denise Sedaria, School Business Administrator.
We're here today to continue on in our budget basics video series, talking to you about, this time, expenditures and revenues. In our first budget video, we gave you the budget basics. Today we are really here to talk to you about where we get our money and how we're legally allowed to expend it. Right, but there are two parts to all sides of a budget story: what we're going to spend our money on, but of course how we're going to get our money.
Correct.
So that's what we're here to discuss today. So expenditures are, of course, the spending side of a budget. And I understand that there are three different puzzle pieces in terms of our expenditures. So I was hoping, Denise, that you could help us understand these three expenditure points.
Right. The budget's broken into three parts. You have the program budget, the administrative budget, and the capital budget.
Okay.
So program budget, that is where the teachers are paid from. You have the teachers, their salaries and benefits. When we purchase supplies and materials so the students have what they need to get their education, textbooks. That is basically what you're talking for your instructional side.
So that portion of the budget is typically what makes up the largest portion of any school district's budget. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. So the second part, the administrative
budget, that is your central office, Board of Education expenses, your public information, legal expenses, and the salaries and fringes that go on top of the salaries for the administrative people.
I also understand that in the administrative budget, it's not all made up of salaries. Is that correct? I understand that we have some funds that are out there for Board of Education expenditures, PR releases for our district, ways that we push information out to our folks. So what are some real examples of expenditures beyond salaries that exist in that budget area?
So Board of Education, you have board expense, you have when it comes time for the budget vote to get everything ready to put the budget up for the taxpayers to vote on. We have public relations, which is our newsletters, the calendars, our website that we have that everybody has access to.
So I think everybody has probably who has some background with budgets of school districts have heard about capital projects, right? So I'm sure that has something to do with the capital portion of our budget. Could you talk to our folks about that?
That is correct. The capital budget consists of planned operations for our custodial staff, our maintenance staff to maintain our buildings. But there's debt service, because when the buildings are built, that the taxpayers have voted years to approve the spending, so we have to pay the debt service back out.
Those are the three portions of the expenditures, how we spend our money as a school district. So let's talk a little bit about where we get our money from, right? We have several sources of funding, right, including the actual tax levy, which you'll talk briefly about at the end of the list of all of the other places where we get our money. But could you please help us understand perhaps the different sources of monies that we receive?
The different sources are your state and federal aid, which is coming out of New York State Education Department. What's allocated on a yearly basis. We receive money for transportation aid. We receive money for BOCES aid. BOCES aid being students that we send for vocational purposes. Programs we buy into BOCES, so we receive BOCES aid, so it's saving the district money. It's a cost savings to partner with the BOCES. We also receive money from interest payments. Interest payments, just like in your own household, you have money in a savings account, you earn interest on a monthly basis. We earn interest on the monies that we have in our savings accounts. We also get miscellaneous income, which is rental income. We rent the building to Sullivan County BOCES, the St. John Street building. We have money coming in from admissions for athletic events, summer school tuition, if we have outside students coming in to take Regents exams.
So after all of those funding sources, that's when we actually go out to the tax base, set the tax levy to bring in the rest of the monies that we need to operate as a school district. Correct. Is that correct?
That is correct. But what happens now is we actually have to know what our tax levy would be first because of the new tax cap.
Absolutely.
So that number is actually set first because there's only a limit to what we can do. From there, then we make sure we have the rest of the income to come in, and we have to make sure then once the revenues are in place that the expenditures meet those revenues.
To finish up this video, very simply explaining our expenditures and revenues, I think it's important to tell our folks that oftentimes school districts need to operate so that their expenditures do not outweigh their revenues.
Yes.
However, we as a school district find ourselves in a situation where we have a healthy fund balance that folks have been talking about, and we are actually going to have our third video be all around that fund balance, how we got to the fund balance, how you and I as an administrative team with the board as the lead on that will responsibly spend down those funds to make sure that we're being very responsible to our taxpayers.
That is correct.
In order to make sure that we can continue on programs, and explain how we got to this point, right? Where we might actually wind up in a situation to be responsible to our taxpayers, to have our expenditures outweigh our revenues. So we look forward to speaking to you about that. Take care, be well, and we hope that you'll join us for our third series, Fun.